Imagine being just 10 years old and suddenly holding the key to prove your teacher's innocence. This is Elijah's story, a brave boy who stood up against lies, threats, and injustice to fight for the truth. Stay with us to hear how one flash drive changed everything. It was the kind of classroom that felt like home. Posters of historical leaders lined the walls. A globe sat slightly crooked on the corner of the desk. And behind it all, Mr. Hanson, tall, slightly awkward, always in corduroy pants and mismatched socks, taught 5th grade with a passion that most teachers had long since lost. For 10-year-old Elijah Monroe, school wasn't always easy. He didn't talk much. Most of the other kids thought he was weird because he liked books more than basketball. But in Mr. Hanson's class, he felt seen. Not just noticed, truly seen. Don't just memorize history, Mr. Hanson would say. Understand it. Feel it. Question it. Elijah did. On Monday morning, Elijah sat near the back of the room, doodling in the margins of his notebook. Mr. Hanson paced at the front, talking about civil rights, using words like justice, accountability, and truth. Elijah loved those lessons. They made him feel like even someone small, like a quiet black kid in a town that barely noticed him, could matter. But something was off that morning. Mr. Hanson kept checking his phone. He looked nervous, distracted. His usual jokes didn't land. And when the bell rang, signaling the end of class, he barely even looked up. Elijah, he said quietly as the boy packed his bag. Hey, you're doing great in class. Just keep being you, all right? Elijah nodded, confused but touched. That afternoon, the rumors started. It began with a whisper in the hallway. They arrested Mr. Hanson. What? For what? They say he touched someone. A girl. Elijah froze. The next day, Mr. Hanson wasn't there. The principal made a vague announcement. A substitute took over. Police cars were parked outside the school for the rest of the week. And suddenly, everything changed. Elijah overheard parents talking when they picked up their kids. I always knew there was something off about that guy. He was too friendly with the boys. Too weird. My daughter said he made her uncomfortable. But Elijah didn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Mr. Hanson had never once made him feel unsafe. He always encouraged questions, always gave second chances. He never yelled. He never shamed anyone. Still, people believed what they wanted. Within days, news vans were parked outside the school. Mr. Hanson's name was trending locally. A group of parents held a meeting to demand justice. Elijah's own mom, who worked double shifts at the diner, told him not to get involved. Sometimes the people we admire aren't who we think they are, she said gently. But Elijah knew. He knew. Something wasn't right. A week later, Elijah found himself walking past the school's old supply closet near the back of the building. It was usually locked, but someone had left it cracked open. Curiosity pulled him in. Inside was dusty, dark, and cluttered. Boxes of outdated textbooks, broken chairs, old posters rolled up and stacked. Elijah moved some things aside, trying to find a space to sit and be alone, and then he saw it. A flash drive. Just lying there on the floor. He picked it up. It was plain black. No label. No one else around. He slipped it into his pocket. That night, Elijah plugged it into the old laptop he shared with his mom. A folder popped up. H_classroom_footage. Private_messages. Incident_audio. Note_to_lawyer.txt. His breath caught. He double-clicked the first folder. Grainy surveillance footage filled the screen. Mr. Hanson's classroom. Empty. Then students walking in. Elijah recognized himself. Some classmates. Mr. Hanson greeting each kid, smiling. He watched for several minutes. Nothing strange. Then one file showed something different. 2 students whispering, heads together, glancing at the door. The same 2 students who had been the loudest in accusing Mr. Hanson later that week. In another folder, Elijah found private messages, screenshots between those same kids. He's so weird. Bet we could get him fired if we said something. Want to try? Let's make it real. Like, scary real. Elijah stared, mouth dry. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a setup. And suddenly, he understood why Mr. Hanson had looked so worried that day. Why he'd said, keep being you. Because somehow he'd known. And maybe, just maybe, he left this flash drive behind on purpose. Elijah's hands shook. If what he was seeing was real, then Mr. Hanson was innocent and about to be convicted for something he didn't do. And Elijah might be the only person who could stop it. Elijah didn't sleep that night. The glowing light of the laptop screen burned into his memory. The files. The messages. The look on Mr. Hansen's face that final day. He stared at the flash drive in his hand like it was some cursed artifact. Small, plastic, but heavier than anything he'd ever held. He thought about going to his mom, about waking her up and telling her everything. But would she even believe him? Would anyone? She already told him to stay out of it. And if she saw the messages, the footage, would she say it was fake? Or worse, that it wasn't his place? No. Elijah had learned one thing from Mr. Hansen: the truth matters. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. The next morning, school felt like a ghost town. Mr. Hansen's old classroom was locked. Students whispered in tight circles. Some were excited, the drama of it all. Others just confused. And the two students Elijah saw in the footage? They were the loudest again. Laughing, whispering, putting on a show of being traumatized. He clenched his fists. That afternoon, Elijah sat on a bench outside the school with Sasha, not a dog this time, but his best friend, Sasha Green. She was tall for her age, confident, and always smelled like peppermint gum. He hesitated before saying it. "I found something." She raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" He looked around, leaned closer. "Stuff about Mr. Hansen. Real stuff. Proof he didn't do it." Sasha's eyes widened. "Wait, what do you mean? Like, for real?" He nodded, pulling the flash drive from his backpack like it was a secret weapon. It was in a storage closet. "I think he left it behind. There's videos. Screenshots of messages. Those two kids, Jackson and Riley, they planned the whole thing." Sasha stared at him for a long time, then slowly said, "You have to show someone. Like, the principal. Or a lawyer." "What if they don't believe me?" Elijah asked. "I'm just a kid. They'll think I faked it or something." Sasha paused. "What if we show my aunt?" "Your aunt? She's a paralegal. Works at the courthouse. If it's real evidence, she'll know what to do." That night, Elijah went over to Sasha's apartment. Her aunt, Miss Denise, was serious and sharp, with no time for nonsense. When Sasha explained everything, Miss Denise asked one question. "Are you absolutely sure this is real?" Elijah nodded and handed her the flash drive. She plugged it in, watched in silence, opened the folders, clicked the messages, played the footage. When it was done, she leaned back and let out a long, quiet breath. "I don't know how you got this," she said, eyes narrowing, "but this is explosive. And dangerous." "Dangerous?" Elijah repeated, his stomach flipping. "Do you know what happens when people lie under oath in a case like this?" she asked. "If what's on this drive is verified, those two students could face serious charges. Maybe even their parents, depending on how involved they were." "Will it help Mr. Hansen?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. Miss Denise nodded slowly. "If it gets to the right hands, absolutely. But we have to be careful. Courts don't like surprises. And if someone finds out you have this, they might try to keep it from getting there." Elijah swallowed. "When's the trial?" She checked her phone. "Sentencing is tomorrow, 2 p.m. They already found him guilty last week. They didn't even let him speak." Elijah's heart sank. "Then we have to go." Miss Denise narrowed her eyes. "Are you ready for what this means? If you show up in court with this, everything changes." "I don't care," Elijah said, steady. "He didn't do it, and I'm going to prove it." But the next morning, everything went wrong. Elijah woke up to banging on the door. Two men in suits stood outside his apartment building, asking neighbors questions. Sasha called in a panic. "I think someone knows you have the flash drive." "Elijah," Miss Denise said over the phone, "you need to be careful. I don't think those boys acted alone. Someone higher up might want to keep this buried." Elijah's hands trembled. "Then I have to go now, before they stop me." He threw the flash drive into his backpack, grabbed his hoodie, and raced down the stairs. Outside, the rain had started again. Cold, sharp drops that made the world feel heavier. He ran toward the courthouse, 3 blocks away, every step echoing with doubt and fear. He passed police tape, news vans, protesters with signs that read, "Protect our kids," and "Justice for survivors." But Elijah knew the truth, and he was the only one who could deliver it. Elijah's heart pounded in his chest as he sprinted down the rain-slicked streets toward the courthouse. His backpack bounced with every hurried step, the weight of the flash drive inside reminding him of the responsibility he carried. The sounds of distant sirens, shouting, and flashing news cameras surrounded him, but Elijah focused only on the building looming ahead, the place where justice was supposed to be served. He glanced over his shoulder. The gray sky blurred with the relentless rain, but he thought he saw a shadow moving too fast, too deliberately. Panic surged through him. Was someone following him? Suddenly, a black sedan roared past, tires spraying water across the sidewalk. Elijah darted into an alleyway, gasping for breath. The flashing lights of a police cruiser appeared at the end of the street, but it didn't slow down or stop. Whoever was after him was determined. "Come on, Sasha," Elijah whispered, clutching the dog's collar tightly. Sasha growled softly, sensing the tension. Ahead, the courthouse doors stood wide open. People milled about, reporters and lawyers hurrying inside. Elijah pushed past the crowd, ignoring the stares of strangers. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with murmurs. The judge sat stoically, and the accused, Mr. Hansen, looked weary but hopeful. The prosecutor was finishing a final argument. It was almost time. Elijah's breath caught. This was his chance. He pushed through the doors leading to the courtroom and raised his hand. "Your Honor," he said shakily, "I have evidence that could prove Mr. Hansen's innocence." The courtroom fell silent. The judge looked down, intrigued but cautious. "Present the evidence," the judge commanded. Elijah took a deep breath, pulled out the flash drive, and held it up for all to see. The room erupted into whispers. The fight for truth was just beginning. The judge's eyes narrowed as the courtroom buzzed with tension. "Bring the flash drive to the clerk," he ordered. A court officer approached Elijah cautiously and took the device. The prosecutor, Mr. Daniels, stepped forward, his expression hardening. "Your Honor, this sudden evidence, introduced minutes before sentencing, is highly irregular. I move to dismiss it as inadmissible." Elijah's heart sank, but Miss Denise, sitting quietly in the back, whispered urgently, "Hold your ground." The judge nodded slowly. "Let the court review the evidence before making a ruling. Bring in the technical expert." Minutes later, a technician connected the flash drive to the court's computer and projected its contents on the large screen. First came the classroom footage, mundane, normal, nothing suspicious. Then the private messages between the two accusers appeared, malicious, plotting, confirming the fabrication. Gasps filled the room. Mr. Daniels paced nervously. "This is clearly tampered with," he exclaimed. "We demand an independent forensic analysis." The judge held up a hand. "Order an immediate review, but this evidence cannot be ignored." Meanwhile, Mr. Hansen's attorney, Ms. Ramirez, whispered encouragement to her client, who blinked back tears. Elijah sat quietly, his small fingers clutching Sasha's leash. The courtroom atmosphere was electric, fragile, uncertain. Suddenly, the door at the back creaked open. Two men in dark suits slipped inside, eyes scanning the room. Elijah's breath hitched. They looked familiar, the men who'd been asking questions at his apartment. One whispered into an earpiece. The tension rose. Miss Denise shot Elijah a look. "Stay close." The courtroom was no longer just a place of justice. It was a battlefield. The two men in dark suits sat near the back, their eyes never leaving Elijah and Miss Denise. Elijah felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. He tightened his grip on Sasha's leash, trying to stay calm. After the court recessed for a short break, Miss Denise pulled Elijah aside into a quiet hallway. "Listen," she said in a low voice, "those men are not here to help. They're here to make sure this evidence disappears. We need to be careful. You might need to testify soon, but they could try to intimidate you or worse." Elijah swallowed hard. "What should I do?" "Stay close to me and Sasha. Don't trust anyone you don't know. And we'll make sure the judge knows about these threats." Back in the courtroom, the technical expert reported that the flash drive's data was authentic and untampered. The court agreed to postpone sentencing and reopen the investigation. The news spread quickly. Elijah became a reluctant hero. Some students and parents who had doubted Mr. Hansen started to question their beliefs. But others grew angry, calling Elijah a liar, saying he was trying to protect a predator. Elijah faced whispers, glares, and even threats at school. One day, he found a note slipped into his locker. "Drop it, or else." Fear and courage battled inside him, but he refused to back down. He remembered Mr. Hansen's words, "Truth is worth fighting for." The courtroom's atmosphere had shifted. News about the flash drive and Elijah's courageous stand had spread beyond the school walls, sparking heated debates in the community. But while some rallied behind Elijah and Mr. Hansen, others doubled down on their accusations, convinced the boy was part of a cover-up. Elijah returned to school one morning to find a mix of reactions. Some classmates whispered apologies, while others avoided him altogether. A few openly sneered. The weight of the situation pressed down hard on the young boy. One afternoon, Elijah met with his best friend Sasha in the school library, hoping for some comfort. "I don't know who to trust anymore," Elijah confessed, rubbing his temples. "People say I'm lying, that I'm making everything worse." Sasha shook her head firmly. "Don't listen to them. You're doing the right thing." We've got Miss Denise and Mr. Hanson on our side." But even as Sasha spoke, Elijah noticed a group of students glaring from across the room, Jackson and Riley among them. Later that day, Elijah's world tilted further. At home, his mother confronted him. "Why are you risking everything for this teacher? People are talking. You're bringing trouble to this family." Elijah looked down. "Because he's innocent, Mom. And if I don't speak up, who will?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I just want you to be safe." Meanwhile, Miss Denise discovered something alarming. The accusations against Mr. Hanson had been orchestrated with help from a powerful local figure, someone who stood to lose a lot if the truth came out. She shared this with Elijah, who realized the fight was bigger than just one teacher or one classroom. The days grew heavier for Elijah. The walls seemed to close in everywhere he went: school, home, even in his own mind. The truth he was carrying wasn't just his anymore. It was a burden shared with everyone who believed in justice. At school, the whispers turned into outright confrontations. One afternoon, in the crowded cafeteria, Jackson blocked Elijah's path. "Drop it, kid, or you'll regret it," he sneered, his voice low but threatening. Elijah swallowed his fear and stood tall. "I won't back down." The lunchroom erupted into murmurs. Teachers nearby watched but said nothing. After school, Elijah found Miss Denise waiting outside the gates. She handed him a phone. "Listen carefully," she said. "This is a burner phone. We've had reports that someone's been trying to hack into your family's accounts and phone. We need to keep ahead of them." Elijah nodded grimly. That night, while lying in bed, he heard the sound of a car idling outside his window. His heart raced. He whispered to Sasha, "They're watching." The next morning, Elijah received a text from an unknown number. "Stop this now, or you'll disappear." Fear gnawed him, but he remembered Mr. Hanson's words: "Truth is worth fighting for." With renewed resolve, Elijah prepared for the next court day. He wasn't alone anymore. The courtroom was packed. Cameras flashed. Whispers filled the air. The judge called the session to order. Mr. Hanson sat at the defense table, tense but calm. Elijah sat nearby, clutching Sasha's leash tightly. The prosecution opened with a strong argument, trying to discredit the new evidence and paint Mr. Hanson as guilty based on multiple testimonies. Then came the defense's turn. Ms. Ramirez stood confidently. "Your Honor, the evidence presented here has been verified by court-appointed experts. It exposes a clear fabrication by the primary accusers." She motioned to Elijah. "This young boy here is not only a witness but also the bearer of the truth. His courage has brought to light facts that were hidden." Elijah's heart pounded as he was called to the stand. Under oath, his voice trembled but remained steady as he explained how he found the flash drive and what it contained. The courtroom was silent except for the occasional gasp when the incriminating messages appeared on the screen. The prosecutor's face twisted with frustration. Finally, the judge leaned forward. "This case will be re-examined in light of this new evidence. Mr. Hanson, you are to be released on bail pending further investigation." Relief washed over Elijah. But as the courtroom began to empty, Elijah noticed Jackson glaring at him from across the room, a silent promise of unresolved conflict. Mr. Hanson's release brought a wave of relief and hope, but Elijah knew the fight wasn't over. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored for answers, and the community remained divided. Some saw Elijah as a hero, others whispered doubts and threats. Back at school, Elijah's days were a mixture of support and hostility. Some students approached him with apologies, others with cold shoulders. Jackson's glare never wavered, a reminder that scars don't heal overnight. At home, Elijah's mother grew more protective but proud. She encouraged him to keep his head up, despite the challenges. Miss Denise worked tirelessly to ensure the case was thoroughly re-examined, coordinating with legal teams and advocates. Elijah often found solace in quiet moments with Sasha, who seemed to sense the boy's burdens and stood as his unwavering companion. One evening, as Elijah looked out the window, he realized that while justice might take time, truth had a powerful ally: courage. Months passed, but Elijah's determination never waned. The new investigation uncovered more evidence supporting Mr. Hanson's innocence. The false accusations began to unravel, revealing not just the students' deceit but also the involvement of powerful figures trying to protect their interests. In the final courtroom hearing, the atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Elijah sat quietly, listening as the judge announced the dismissal of all charges against Mr. Hanson. Tears of relief streamed down Mr. Hanson's face as he hugged Elijah. The courtroom erupted in applause. Outside, the community slowly began to heal. The story sparked conversations about prejudice, the power of truth, and the courage of one boy who refused to be silent. Elijah, once a quiet kid, became a symbol of bravery and justice. As he walked home with Sasha by his side, he looked up at the sky and smiled. The fight had been long, but the truth had won.